Side Podcast with Joe and Zef. Today we're talking about TV Part 2.
That's right.
I don't know what the Part 2 is going to be labeled. The other
well, the first one was not qualified to get knocked down. So
okay,
this one will
so
be
get back up again.
Yeah.
So we are not qualified to get back up again. So this is, I know last episode we really harped on Dawson's Creek
and how much it sucks.
How much it sucks. That show sucks so much. We're gonna go to the other side and really talk about TV shows we really enjoy. Mm-hmm. I'll let you start that off.
Okay, so this won't be the only TV episode we do. We'll probably talk about tons of things. We'll go more in depth, but we'll just give an overview of a few TV shows we each love. Mm-hmm. So I'll start. I basically have 3 shows that are tied for my favorite.
Yeah.
Now I'll start with the one that I usually say when people say, "What's your favorite TV show?" This is my answer because it sounds the most like cool and hipster, and people know what it is, and the other 2 are obscure for people our age.
Yeah.
So the first one I'll talk about is the Twilight Zone, just the original run of the Twilight Zone. That show probably has impacted me more as like in my childhood than any other TV show. Other than things I watched at a young age that I don't remember that are unconsciously forming, shaping the person I am. But no, like the Twilight Zone is just. I love anthology shows where you can just watch an episode and each episode's its own story. I think they're harder to write and be consistently good because you have to come up with a great plot every week. But the Twilight Zone did that great. I still haven't seen every episode because I've never watched it all the way through. I just watch. I go in random orders.
Yeah.
And I still see episodes on a regular basis that blow me away, where I didn't see the twist coming, or it makes me think about something. It makes me think about the universe in a different way. It, creeps me out. There's some really creepy episodes. They speak a lot of truth. So that's my general feelings about Twilight Zone. I love it. How much of Twilight Zone have you seen? We haven't really talked about Twilight Zone much.
A handful of episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, just here and there. I mean, whenever you lived on Owens.
Yeah.
Whenever I'd watch a few episodes every now and then. But I mean, like other than that, I haven't spent a lot of time watching.
Yeah. Man, some of my favorite episodes. I'm trying to think. There's one that specifically impacted me as a kid because it was so weird. It wasn't like one. I mean, there's the famous episodes people know, like the pig episode where somebody's getting reconstructive surgery because they think they're ugly, and then it shows what they look like ugly, and they look like a normal person, and then it finally reveals everyone else's faces, and they look like disgusting pig creatures. And the twist is, they live in a world where everyone's pigs, whatever. But there's those iconic episodes, with the one with William Shatner and the goblin on the wing and on the plane, things like that. The episode that stuck with me most as a kid, and I think because I was a kid, there's an episode where a little girl's asleep in her bed and her parents are in their bedroom in the other room, and she slips through the wall. The child slips through the wall in like a tear in time and space, a little slip. I don't even know what you'd call it, to another dimension, just in her wall. Falls off her bed, slips through into this other dimension, and is stuck there. And this dimension is just an abstract, floaty, foggy, weird-shaped place with echoes. That's the best way to describe it. And she's just lost there. Yeah. And her parents can hear her in the walls, and they don't know where she is, and they have to pull her out. And it was just the most bizarre, weird, and terrifying thing as a kid because it's abstract. And it's something I don't know. It stuck with me. So there's an example of a show I love. Your turn.
Okay, a show I love. I'm a big fan of Futurama.
Me too, baby.
Love that show. I very often run into those instances where people. Please don't harp on me. I get it. I know The Office is great. I think I've already said this in another episode.
I love The Office. It's a
great
amazing
episode.
show.
I would say it's probably one of the funniest shows ever created.
Yes.
Right? I've only seen it once. Get off my back.
I can't relate. I've seen it 9 times like everyone else. But yeah.
And I loved it. Don't get me wrong.
No,
I heavily enjoyed it. So good.
Yeah.
But I'm not one of those people that just turns it on
and rewatches it all the time.
Watch it every time I have a free moment. It's always Futurama.
Yeah,
every single time.
Yeah.
And every time I have those just free, couple hours, I'm like, I'll turn on a couple episodes, then I'll do something else.
Yeah.
I'll fall asleep to it. I'm probably on rewatch unintentional rewatch 14 of this show. Like, I've seen this show so many times.
Yeah.
I really do love the show. And I think and me and you have talked about this, it's a great mix between Matt Groening's current TV show, Disenchantment, which is very linear. It has a very set storyline that it's trying to follow. It's trying to uncover mysteries about the characters. And The Simpsons, which is very serial, episodic.
It's a satire of serialized episodic TV shows. It's the most ridiculous version of things resetting every week.
Yes, absolutely. And they do that, but also there, over the course of the show, is an arc in Futurama. Futurama that it's doing both, and I think it's such an incredible split between the two. Not only that, but just being an incredible story. I think it's such a neat story of just a guy.
It's a great show in every way.
It's a great show. He wakes up in the year 3000, so he's having to deal with loss.
Everyone does not live underwater.
Everyone does not live underwater. Definitely, they were wrong. Not the Jonas Brothers. Who were they? What was their original?
Oh, the original band was. If you hadn't asked me, I would know.
Yeah.
Is it Busted?
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's Busted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, great show. I love that show. And if you have a couple extra hours, then just give it a shot. I think it's hilarious.
I think it's one of those shows that's funny all the way through. The writing is so good. The writing, so I don't know how to say this without sounding either pretentious or offensive. It's a fine line I walk, but it's like what Rick and Morty fans think Rick and Morty is, except actually.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, like it's actually smart humor, unlike Rick and Morty.
Because like people like David X. Cohen and they have PhDs in mathematics and stuff like that, where they actually have the Futurama theorem, that episode where they switch brains, and they had to come out with a theorem of if you had this many people and you had to replace their brains without having to go back, you can't mix the same two people.
Right.
How long would it take?
Yep.
They had a mathematical theorem of how many people it would take.
Yep.
What an insane amount of work to do.
Oh no, but Rick and Morty is the same thing because one of the characters wears a lab coat.
Blib blop bleep blop, my guys.
Okay, anyway, sorry. This is not a Rick and Morty hate show. Okay, yes, I agree. Futurama, and it's one of the few shows that's been rebooted 3 times and is great all the way through.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even had the whole whatever was season 7, season 6 was just 4 different movies. Just straight to DVD movies at the time.
That still advanced the story.
And
then when they came back, they expected you to have watched them.
Yeah. And then they finally ended the show on a very satisfying note. Something that was...
And I see people debate online about which ending was better. The original season... Was it season 4?
I think it was season 5.
Season 5 finale. Where it's at Fry's concert. And,
yeah.
Or the season 9 ending. Which one is better? And I think they're equal.
Yeah,
I mean they're both extremely emotionally satisfying endings.
If either show, if it had ended in either spot, I would have been just as satisfied.
Or if it had ended after the straight to DVD movies, all 3 endings were emotionally satisfying. They did a great job.
One of them ended where you're like, I guess this.
But also leaving it open for a reboot.
Yeah,
it's great, man.
And even the ending now we have is just like,
well, the thing about the ending, we're probably just going to talk about. We're all like halfway through the episode. Is that. The way the show ends lends itself to rewatching over and over and over again because it literally... I can't spoil, but it lends itself to that. So.
Yes, and not only that, but the layered humor. Because they obviously, it's Matt Groening, so they have like the Simpsons type obvious, here's a one-liner joke.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, just during the dialogue, they'll have a joke that you might have skimmed over. You didn't even realize it was a joke that they were saying.
Yep.
And then even deeper than that, where like something in the background or the way the characters are acting, it's all a reference to some other dumb joke.
Yep. It's quick.
Brilliant.
It's quick pace. I love it. Love show.
And they never linger on something. It's always very funny. So, back to
my turn. I won't talk too long about these next 2 shows because you haven't seen either of these all the way through.
Yeah.
But these are my other 2 tied for first favorite shows that impacted me as a child that I love to this day. I've watched over and over and over again. And one of those is WKRP in Cincinnati. Sitcom from the late 70s, early 80s, about a radio station. It was, it's funny, a lot of people our age don't know about this. If you ask anyone over 40, they probably know what WKRP... It was a popular show. but people our age don't know about it. And it's funny because it was a really influential sitcom.
Yeah.
In the realm of sitcoms, we owe a lot of modern stuff to that show. I mean, speaking of The Office, there are a lot of Office episodes that when I watch them, I'm like, wow, that was directly inspired from a WKRP episode. Like, it's the same thing, character-based, office setting, humor, but in WKRP, obviously, it's a radio station. I mean, since you haven't seen it, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I think the characters in WKRP are some of the funniest and most genuine, like, lovable characters in a show ever. It doesn't feel fake. It doesn't feel forced. It was in the 70s, so it was before the era of cringy laugh tracks and canned laughter. It was actually filmed in front of a live audience on a weekly basis. It feels like you're watching a live performance. And the actors just, they're great. They know how to improv. They know how to deliver dramatic and comedic lines at the same time. It's episodic, obviously, being a sitcom, and it does a great job of just drawing you in and making you love the characters and being really funny, honestly. And if you watch WKRP, you have to buy the Shout Factory DVDs. Wait, what did I say? WKRP? Yeah, if you watch WKRP, buy the Shout Factory DVD set. Don't watch it on like Amazon Prime or whatever, because on Amazon Prime they've replaced all the music with canned, fake, generic music to avoid having to pay the copyright. If you buy the DVDs, it has the original music that was played in the show, and that's a huge aspect of the show. Is that they used real radio singles from the 70s.
It takes place in a radio station.
A rock and roll station. So there's you hear Supertramp songs and you hear Pink Floyd songs in the show, and some jokes are even based around the music that's playing. And if you watch it on Amazon Prime, they just have to cut out entire scenes because it doesn't make sense anymore. So there's my recommendation for a show. If you haven't seen it, WKRP. Your turn.
All right, I'll try and go through this one quickly. Last Airbender. I know it's earlier.
Great show. Just finished it this year.
Yeah, just the past few months. It was put on Netflix. For the first time.
I think that happened like a year ago.
What, did it really?
Dude, we've been in quarantine I think it's happened over a year ago, yeah. I could be wrong, but this whole last year is blurred together.
All right, I'm going to try and get past that weird mental funk I just got put in. A great show. It was something I grew up seeing on Nickelodeon, and even I got the premise of the show. I would see the same episodes, like The Great Divide, over and over again, and I'd see...
That was the episode you saw over and over again?
I'm sick of that episode.
That episode sucks to begin with. They joke about that episode in the show itself.
Yeah, because it's just a generic episode. They can throw it in whenever. However many reruns you want to do. I'd wind up at the finale over and over again or whatever. Because they replayed it constantly on Nickelodeon. Yeah. After the finale happened, they would do a season-long rerun of the whole show. Okay. Every however long. So I would end up seeing a lot of the episodes, and then it wasn't until early high school, probably 8th grade, maybe 9th grade, I ended up watching the show with my current roommate, and we ended up falling in love with it. It was a great show. Loved it so much. And it tipped a weird balance between, this is definitely started out meant for kids. The Nickelodeon crowd, the children, but they dealt with such heavy themes like, my dad is abusive, and my mom died, so now I have to deal with having to partially raise my brother, and I'm alone, depression. It was honestly really heavy themes for a show that was in the area that it was in.
And what was great about that show, I'll say that as a kid, I didn't like it. I saw it on Nickelodeon. It gave me weird vibes. Yeah. I don't know why. I just it was one of those shows that makes you feel weird as a kid. Mm-hmm. You just go based on gut instinct. So I didn't like it. I just watched it for the first time on you and Caitlin's recommendation this year. Yeah. And I loved it. Yeah. I loved the lore, the world building, the setting. It was all really cool. Great show through and through. And it was exactly the perfect length. Yes, and it's one of the few shows that gets better as it goes on and ends on a perfect note. Yeah. They didn't linger on it, and I think the creators, Brian and Dante, I think they're the two guys that created it. Those names are definitely within their names. With the last two names, their last names, I don't know. Had never had the intention of going beyond what they had written, of the 3 seasons. So I think they definitely went into it with this is what we want to do, and we did it. And we did it.
and perfectly.
Yeah.
And it was perfect. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
I think like you said, the lore, the world building, everything was so cool and neat.
Yeah.
And you go back in, like if you ever rewatch it, you're like, oh, you can see little hints about stuff here and there. It's very layered. Even in their sequel series, Legend of Korra, I really enjoyed, not as much as Airbender, but obviously I still loved it. Very similar vibes to it. Even more world building upon that, what you already got. Overall, yeah, great.
Great show.
High recommendations.
The last show I'll mention is the other one tied for first place for me is this one. I guarantee the least of you will have heard of. It's The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. It ran in 1993. It was a one-season show, similar to Firefly. And similar to Firefly, it was a blend of two genres. Even more similar to Firefly, it was a blend of the same two genres, but they were inverted. So if you've seen Firefly, you know that it is a Western-esque sci-fi. It's a sci-fi with Western elements. Briscoe's the opposite. It's a Western set in the American West with sci-fi elements. So it's a sci-fi Western. Man, I love that show. It's one season. I know every episode through and through. I can quote every episode. Starring Bruce Campbell, who is my favorite actor of all time. And we were talking about in another episode how I love campy stuff. I love campiness.
Yes.
I don't love cheesiness. I don't love corniness. I love campiness. There's a difference. Campiness is intentional, and it's meant to be funny and endearing, and that's what Briscoe is through and through. It's hilarious. You fall in love with the characters. Even if you don't like Westerns, you'll still like this show. It's funny. It's good. It's only one season. It's not a huge commitment. If you don't like it, you're stupid, and that's what I have to say about that. So watch Briscoe.
All right. I think the only other series I have to say isn't necessarily a TV series. It's a miniseries. It's a Hulu miniseries of one of my favorite books of all time. It's 11/22/63, featuring James Franco.
That's how many episodes there are. That's a joke.
That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
The longest running TV show known to man. Great miniseries. If you ever have intentions of watching the series or reading the book, just know that the book and the series are noticeably different.
Like every Stephen King adaptation.
Like every single King adaptation in the world. But
this one's good different.
This one's good different.
Like The Shining. Not bad different like The Gunslinger.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that just gives more credit to miniseries. I think if you want to do an adaptation of a book and you don't have the between an hour and a half to 2 hour runtime to complete all the nuances of that book, do a miniseries.
Yeah.
Find an outlet you can do, like Hulu or Amazon Prime or something like that, and do a miniseries of it. I really loved that miniseries, and I actually watched it before I even read the book, which got me to read the book. If you don't know, it's about, the date 11/22/63 is the day John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. And the whole series follows a man who finds out that he can go back in time before the assassination date to try and prevent it, to see if he can prevent all the mass atrocities that happened with getting involved with the Cuban Missile Crisis and especially Vietnam and all the things that would impact America by getting involved in those things. I thought it was a super fascinating concept. Loved the show. And as sappy as I don't want to be, it's really just it's a love story disguised.
He tried to track down baby Paul Feig and convince him not to be a filmmaker. Sorry, that was really mean. Continue. That's not true.
Anyways, yeah, the book and the series are both love stories disguised as sci-fi, historic, stories, but it accomplishes all three of those in a very respectful and a very accomplished manner. I loved him so much. Yeah, great recommendation. Go check it out. If you don't want to read the book, if you don't want to spend however long it took me, months to read that book, it's an enormous book. It's like 1,200 pages. Watch the series. It's just as good.
Yeah, I didn't read the book. I watched the series.
I loved it.
It's good. So, really good.
Yeah.
James Franco's a great actor.
He is.
Speaking of miniseries, if we want to talk about many more series, we'll have to do a longer episode. Many series.
Many.